So what did you tell me what you thought about the
Oh,
experience of being part of the Latinas 100 and like how did you um how was it? Like how did you find me? How did you find the project? Like tell me about that.
yeah. So, I know Martha Nino, who's been in your book previously, and
Mhm.
she has her own book of her own as well, and her story, just so impactful. And I was inspired by her, and I met up with her, and she said, "Hey, like, there's this Latinas 100 that you can be involved in if you want to." And so I've been, so even since I was a little kid in elementary school, they would give us these activities where it'd be hardback, just blank canvas of books, and we would create our own stories, like creative stories about us or fiction and fantasy and just all of these different things. And I always loved and enjoyed that. And I forget about that. And I've recently been on a journey to really tap into my creative self-expression for myself. So being part of this just meant so much because not only am I getting to express myself and my story, but it it also ties to my roots of being like first generation and just the fun quirkiness of it all that is awkward of being ni de aquí ni de allá and how early I felt that on in my childhood. So it was, but being part of it with all the other like women and all over the world and reading some of these stories, it's just so, it encapsulates the beauty of our diversity of Latinas in general, and we're not a monolith and we're not boxed in categories. We are everything. Like we can be everything in all things. And so I loved being a part of such an eclectic story.
Yes, I love that you were part of it, and I love the story that you chose to write about. You're on page 183. Did you get your copy? Did you get
Yes,
your? Oh,
right
awesome.
here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you like the cover?
I do. It's so cute. The
Yeah, it's
butterflies.
different. It's different than the other covers because the other covers had more like a I don't know if you got to see the other ones. The other ones are
With the face, right?
the
Yeah,
face. Yeah,
like the outline.
yeah. This was like the very first one.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it just kind of it took a life of its own now. So yeah, we opted for this one. Were you part of the selection of the cover? Because when we do it on the in the Facebook, we all
Yeah.
choose if it's cover one, cover two, cover three. No me acuerdo.
I don't think or yeah, I
Do
wasn't
you
part of it.
remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so tell me a little bit about your story and why you chose to write about young sensation.
Yeah. So my story goes back to uh third grade or fourth grade, I believe. I don't remember one of those grades. But yeah, it was pretty much about this experience that I had when I would travel to Peru because both my parents are from Peru, and I had the privilege of really understanding my roots at such a young age. So um, we would go for the holiday, like Christmas time, every other year. So my first trip was in first grade, and then my second and third. So yeah, so this was third. And um, I wrote about this story because I had this amazing experience. It was like the early 2000s. The boy bands in the US were like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and it was just everything. You're listening to your Walkman, like you're doing these dances. It was very just so much part of my youth here growing up. And then it was so beautiful because it was almost seamless when I went to Peru con mis primas there. And they sung the same songs that I was singing. And so we performed, and it was this beautiful connection that even though we grew up thousands of miles away, didn't talk to each other every day, that this music, these boy bands, like can connect us. And then being in Peru, they showed me and my other prima that I was with, this local boy band in Lima, or in Peru, because Peru, all of Peru would know them. And I just quickly, like, just like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, just got obsessed with them and listened to them nonstop.
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to go to a concert, and so I had this beautiful experience, like just a third grade girl who's like squealing over these boy bands. And then I get back home, like to California in elementary school. And so the band was called Joven Sensación in Peru. And so this title is called Young Sensation because when I came back, I said, "Hey guys, I went to a Young Sensation concert." Like I translated the band name, and then I just got like blank faces from
Yeah.
them. And that was the moment where I understood that, hey, like not everyone actually lives the same life as me. Like, and I think at a young age, you just kind of really assume everyone is going to Peru and seeing their family. Everyone's traveling, everyone's um parents have accents, or I was helping my parents with their citizenship tests, like with flashcards. I'm like, everyone's doing that too, right? Like everyone's quizzing their parents. And that was the moment where I was like shocked of the disconnect, um, because everything else felt connected. And I just couldn't comprehend that they didn't understand that. And I went back home and I was like, Mommy, like why don't they know what joven sensación is? Like, and she just started laughing so hard, and I'm like, what's funny? Like, I don't get it. And so she's like, she kind of broke it down to me where it was like, no, like in Peru is Peru, and then in the US, like, things happen here differently. And so that moment is I like just that staple pillar moment in my life where I really felt that ni de aquí ni de allá deeply, because I was holding these two things,
Mhm.
so like beautiful to me, like my Peruvian identity and my family and the culture and the food and the dancing and the music that I was like so excited to like talk about with my friends when I came back. And then I also was holding like the Backstreet Boys, like the American culture, the early 2000s, and being with friends and playing outside and speaking English, right? Like, and I just didn't know where I could fit both of these things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you thank you for sharing that. And you wrote it beautifully, by the way, because I have it, of course, highlighted and you say in this section, this is, and I put like, wow, I write in all my books, by the way.
I
And
love it.
I'm gonna read it so you all who are watching can hear this. So she's on page 183 of our latest book, and then there's a section when she's talking about what do you mean? I asked. How do you know Young Sensation? How do you not know Young Sensation? I even translated the name into English to help. How could they not know? In that moment, a pain of something I'd never felt before hit me, a kind of sadness, an ache I couldn't name. That makes me cry.
Mm.
Yeah. And then she writes, Melody writes, it wasn't just that my friends didn't know Joven Sensación. It was that they didn't understand what the band or that concert meant to me. I felt as though I was holding on to something precious that was invisible to them. Here I was, fresh from an experience that had filled me with so much joy, yet I didn't seem to fit into a world I returned to in California. I suddenly realized that these two pieces of my life, Peru and the US, didn't quite overlap. And in that gap, I felt the beginnings of what it means to live between two cultures. So that really hits me in my heart because I know the feeling. Because and you wrote it beautifully. I love you're a great writer, by the way.
Thank you.
Um, just the way that you chose to write this, in particular, when you say, I never felt I never felt before a pain of something I never felt before hit me, kind of sadness and ache I couldn't name. And that for me, that ache has been very true as well, where I didn't understand, I didn't understand that I was in the in-between, that I could be 100% Americana and also 100% Mexicana. And like my whole life, I tried to prove that I was a really good Mexican daughter, you know? So I love your piece. I love that you shared it and that you speak so eloquently about it. And then in the end, of course, you end, I'm going to read the ending. You all can buy the book from her directly, okay? Um, the link is below. Being in between isn't a weakness, it's a strength, a gift. And with every new experience, I feel her there beside me, guiding me and encouraging me to bring all parts of myself to the table. That's the true power and beauty of living life in the hyphen of being Peruvian-American.
Mm.
So you're really talking about your younger self and, you know, embracing that younger self, you know. So it's beautiful. It's a really healing story. That's why I love these stories, because we all have almost similar narratives, whether you're from Peru or Mexico or, you know, Panama, Honduras, you know, it's the same, it's a very similar journey as we try to integrate into a culture that doesn't necessarily, and I don't know if you would agree, but doesn't always necessarily embrace us.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I feel deeply what you've written, and I also feel like I want to know more about how it was when you shared the story of your peers or your family when they found out that you wrote this story in this book. Did you get any feedback?
Yeah, yeah. So it's it's really funny because this story is like one of my mom's go-to stories. Like when we talk about when I was a kid, like it comes up in dinner tables and family events of like, remember Melanie and Young Sensation? Like when all the tias get together and my mom's sisters, um, they just like to reminisce on like the memories that we when we were little. And that one gets repeated a lot because they but they did never ex like they shared the emotion, right? Of like, oh my gosh, like Melanie was like, bringing this. It's like funny. It's funny to them, which is like looking back, like it is funny, but I think being able to put this on paper and share with my family like what I was thinking in that time, like the audacity and the 100% assurance that I had that my friends would know who Young Sensation was. Like I was just so sure of it. And so to write that and have them read that and understand why I was so shocked, um I think really helped me not only heal like from that time, but to put it pen to paper. And now that it's like out there and like I really do believe that there's more of these stories out there that we just, our family talks about like, oh, remember when so and so, but we have so much in common in that sense. And so but they've been very supportive and they love the story. And they always say like Young Sensation. And they actually um at my wedding, all of my cousins and Diaz did a surprise dance to a Joven Sensation song.
Cool.
Because again, that was like such a part of our childhood. And so to have this now like on paper is just
On
so,
print, yeah.
yeah, in print.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Did anyone share anything with you that surprised you? Because I know they thought that it was funny, but when I read the story at that moment in time for you, that wasn't funny. That was like a watershed moment for you. That was like a moment where your whole life was shaken.
Yeah.
I feel like when I read it, I was like, that's when that's when she found out
Mm-hmm.
that she didn't quite fit in. And that's something, and I respect anybody who, like my aunts and uncles and everything, that were born in Mexico and everything, and they have their own experience, but they don't know that moment. My mom doesn't know that moment. My uncles don't know that moment.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Yeah.
realize that you quite don't belong. And of course, then later when you get older and wiser, you reframe those things, right? As you know, as a coach and everything. But that was a really big deal for you. So I guess what I'm asking is that as your family read this story about what you experienced, did they acknowledge that? Did they see that it was a really big deal for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love this question. Actually, it's been so good because it's opened conversations with my parents now. And I think my mom didn't really, I think my dad too, like they didn't really understand that like feeling of not belongingness because they would always tell me like, hablas perfecto el inglés y naciste aquí. Like, done. Like you are American. Like, that was like instilled because they felt they had their own story of them being immigrants and learning English at a very older time in their life, like as adults. So they just looked at me as like, okay, you're good. Like, you're successful. Like, you're going to be fine, but they also didn't have the tools or were equipped to understand what I was feeling. And so this has actually opened up really good conversations lately with my parents of, yeah, like I don't really quite like fit in. I have found my way, right, as an adult. Um, but those moments as a child, like I really did feel that way. I felt like not really 100% being able to be like everyone around me at school. And then there was like these weekends where we would be with family, and there was like I felt the separation so much of like how different it was.
Mhm.
And I could never articulate that uh, as a kid. And so it's been really good to have these conversations with my parents as adults now because I think it gives them a lens of understanding that yes, even though was born here, I'm American, I speak English, like I still had experiences that made me feel invalidated here in this country. And I think they didn't want that at all for me. So maybe that was like hard for them to understand because it was like, well, look at us, like we really are the one, and so but it's really opened up conversations of empathy and like understanding like what it was like in my shoes, and it's been really beautiful to have them actually like see that part.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that they're taking that story and there's conversations around it because really that's all it is. It's us having the conversation about it. And nobody's asking, let's resolve this, let's repair this, because nothing's broken. But let's just have a conversation about how that was a massive moment for you as a young American kid, realizing that you didn't quite fit into the fabric. And then I love that you said, but I found my way. I found my own way of doing things, as we all do, as we all children of immigrants, first generation, navigate this landscape that doesn't always necessarily embrace us, but we figure it out.
Mhm.
Sometimes painfully, sometimes you know, sometimes it doesn't even bother some people. I know plenty of first generation kids, the Latino culture that, they're like, it was like, no, it never affected them, which is great. But, for the rest of us, where we have those moments, right, where you're telling your friends about Young Sensation, and they're like, what's that? And so when I was reading about the Backstreet Boys and stuff, I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, I was there, yeah, beautifully written. So what can you tell me a little bit about what you're up to right now in your career, in your life, and share with the audience that's listening in a little bit more about you so they can kind of get the context of the story.
Yeah. Um, right now or just throughout my career, yeah, I'm like, how do I synthesize this? Because I've been one of those people who like it wasn't just a straight path. I've been zigzagging a lot, which actually I think is a testament to being first gen and like running into things and kind of bumping into it and trial and error, very like I've been taking life as a in the test labs. Like, does this work for me? No, yes, no. So, I studied intercultural studies and which has been a great foundation for like my love of different cultures and my empathy and like understanding of importance, how we're all connected just as human beings in the world. Then I was in nonprofit for a little bit and worked with youth, and it was like first gen Latino youth. And then I was in higher education, helping high school students get into college did that for about 8 years. And I got my master's in educational leadership and higher ed, and thinking I was going to be a dean or a VP. And I made the switch after taking a medical leave from that career path that just was mentally and energetically draining. Got into corporate, so now I'm in corporate and have done things in HR and business and finance operations now, and currently also getting my coaching certificate to be able to be able to be a coach for folks. And my focus that I would love to have is on leadership, on high individual contributors who are women of color, who struggle with the burnout, struggle with the not feeling that they belong, because I've been there too. And I think what I'm learning currently in my journey is really just understanding the concept of like no one should you should never dim your light for anyone, and your light is so unique to you, and you can be your authentic self and feel your best self in a world that feels that you can't. But that's how we change the world, is when we step up to ourselves being the most authentic us.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, absolutely. That was beautifully said. I love the fact that you have so many experiences. So earlier you said, I zigzagged, and did all of that. And the reality is that if I was to hire a coach, I would hire you because you have so many layers and different experiences that allow you to have such a broad a perspective of life, because you've had all those experiences. Plus, you're highly educated. That if I was to choose a coach, I would choose you.
Thank you.
So I can't wait to help promote when you're done with all of your training, to help you in any way that I can, to put you at the forefront of those women that are in high stress power positions, that are ready to have a conversation with a seasoned coach that really would understand their language. And there's a need for it. There's, especially in the Latino community, and I can tell you just from experience that we, even within the Latinas 100 organization community that we've built, there's a lot of women that are not necessarily open to coaching with someone that is not from their cultura, because
Mhm.
there's a lot, as a coach, as there is a lot of conversations that take place that when you don't know the culture, you don't really know what the person is talking about. And this has nothing to do with whether or not the coach understands, but like there's a lot of things that happen within the Latino cultura that they really can only be a Latino coach is the only one that could probably coach you through it. Um, and so because of the American culture is so different, and so we happen to be, the privileged few. I do feel that it is a privilege to have been born and raised here. And even though it's been difficult to navigate both worlds, that we do have the privilege of seeing two sides of one story. And so whether or not that can be stressful to some people. It was very stressful for me as a young kid, as it sounds like to me it was for you as well. But I learned to navigate it. And now I realize that I'm like, wow, I know two languages, which means that my vocabulary is way bigger than anybody else who only knows one language. Plus, there's the data and the science that backs that, our brains are different. And I'm not saying this to brag, but that means that we're quite more intelligent than most people that only know one language, and all different types of intelligence. So, I mean, really, we have an unfair advantage. If you think about it, it's an unfair advantage if we know our power, if we don't dim our light, and if we know, and if we're coached by the right person as well. So I'm really happy to hear that you're doing the coaching program. So when will you be ready to go for your coaching
Great
program?
question. Yeah. So I finished my program in June, but still like with the hours and certification, I aim for the end of this year.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, where yeah, I'm here to support you in any way that I can. So, um, I definitely feel like your participation in this volume, it was key because I love reading your story and I love learning about you. And I'm glad that you came into my universe and the Latinas 100 community. I hope that this one story becomes 100 other stories that you decide to write because you're a great writer, and that within the community you reach out to any of us, because that's how we build the community, so we can help support each other in any way that we can, and we can share our stories of this. This is what I love to hear of first generation, and I'm biased obviously because I'm first generation Latina, but of these moments, this one moment where you realized, and I don't know about you, but I read a lot of books and they don't necessarily talk about these things because there's not a lot of Latino writers. So I just found out, I got to share this. I just found out this crazy statistic and data on how many Latinos are published in the United States. So I had a white paper that I wrote like probably 2 years ago about the publishing industry and stuff because, I'm in the publishing industry, so I need to know the data, right? But then I came across these crazy numbers, and it was out of all the published authors in the United States, guess how many published Latinos there is published Latinos by any publishing, whether it's self-published or big publishing houses. How many do you think are in the United States out of 300 million 300 million people in the United States? How many are published Latinos? Can you give me a number?
Probably like, I don't know, percentage, I'm thinking maybe just 5%, probably less. I don't know.
Out of 300 million people in the United States, there's only 12,000 of us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So to say that we need your story in print and to say that your story is important, like it's an understatement. Like it's not only important that you share that story about, young sensation and about how you feel in that moment and stuff. The fact that you wrote it, you print it, and you're sharing it, and now we're, social media, and we're doing a YouTube, we're discussing, that is a revolution that we're even
Yeah.
having this conversation, because that 12,000 published authors in the United States that have similar stories is not enough to let the rest of the country know what we're experiencing. So we're part of the American fabric. We are part of the history of the United States. And for our voice not to be shared and heard is I think a catastrophe. I think it's criminal. I think it's so, and I'm very passionate about it. So I just had to share that data with you because I'm going through putting a different white paper together about other things that are going on in publishing and how they pertain to Latino writers. And the world needs you. The world needs your story. The world needs your coaching. The world needs you to do what you need to do to shine your light as much as you can. So as a collective and as a community, we help empower others to also share. And it doesn't matter to me if you publish in print, if you publish an ebook, or if you publish a blog, or if you do a YouTube video, but our stories must be shared. And so with that, I just want to thank you for spending some time with me on what is it, Sunday today? And for participating in this volume, for sharing and for contributing and for just connecting with us and connecting with me and taking the time to do so. So I want to leave you the final words. What is something that you would like to share with the community and really with the world about your story, participating, and then just sharing in general about your core message.
Yeah. Well, before I get there, I just want to say thank you so much, Adriana, for in that moment in your life taking that bold step to shine your light and really truly believe in yourself, to create this whole community, this business, this publishing space that you've created for so many of us. Because for me, being able just to be in this in a physical book to some little girl who was creating creative stories. I had one of them, my mom again talks about when I was little, is like I had this whole story in elementary school. It was called Mangorella. And it was like Cinderella, but it was about like she was all mangoes because I loved mangoes. And I had a Peruvian llama as the fairy godmother. And I had like this whole
Oh,
twist and turn of like making it to fit my culture and me and just the fun and the creativity of writing. So I just want to thank you that you let that 9-year-old girl in me like just be so happy for herself, and she would be like so excited to know that she's part of a book, and it makes me not want to stop writing. So thank you. Thank you so much.
oh,
I'm
that
getting
is so
emotional now too,
beautiful.
but before that, yeah, I just wanted to thank you because that helps heal all of us in this process of so much of the world telling us things that make us believe these lies. But your light has touched mine, and I'm fired up to continue to share mine wherever that goes.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me that you're sharing that. And also, when you're ready to write that kid's book, Mango,
Mangala, yeah.
yeah, I will help you publish that. That sounds like a really
Okay.
cool book,
Sounds
like a
good.
really cool kids book that my kids would read, right?
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. I appreciate you. I so appreciate you. So thank you so much. And also I want to thank you for being so patient with the publishing process and learning. We post because it's a private group, so we post a lot of things online and emails get back and forth, and being patient with the publishing process with us as we continue to perfect our process in the community. And I just want to let you know I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I'll leave folks with um we each have a story to share, whether it is writing, verbally, recording it, and we need to hear them all. I think currently our world is a complete mess, and so much of it is this created division that we are so dissimilar, that we are so against each other, or we're just so different that we can never like be together in a world. And if we really boil it, I don't know if I heard this recently or read this or just a video or somewhere, but it's like adults always say it's complicated, but like it's really not. It's really not complicated. It's actually truly about seeing this other person, anybody, just simply humanity as a whole, like somebody who's like your family, like somebody who's also deserving of dignity, who also has a story, who also wants to pursue things in their life, right? And so I think the fear that comes with like, oh, my story, and I would be lying to you if I said, oh my gosh, like what am I gonna like, is my story gonna like land well with people? Is it gonna like be something that they understand, or is it just, am I so dumb for doing this? All of those thoughts. But it was really cool to be part of the process where I didn't feel alone, first of all, like with all of these other women writing their story, and then you being able to really guide us through the process of publishing, because that's another world of, you know, I don't know. So it was really cool to sample an experience for like just a short story in an anthology like this. And it almost like, yeah, it's like I mentioned, it's like, well, if I could do that,
Yes.
I could write a whole book. I could do a children's book. I could, like what? that opens up to. And I think for our Latino community, like I think we have so much rich experiences um across our lives, across our cultures. There's like, my gosh, we have so many. I think there's 21 countries that speak Spanish, and like just all of this, just from Mexico to Argentina. There's so many countries. And you know what's funny? It's like I recently talking to my parents, right? When they were in Peru, they learned that the continent of America was just one. And I was telling them, like, that's really crazy because here I learned that it was North America and South America, and they divided us. And they were both shocked. They were like, wait, you learned that in school? And I was like, yeah, like, that's what I learned. And so to be able to kind of talk that out too, it's like, it is an illusion, this division,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so how do we continue to connect, and not only my story can connect to like Latino community, but all first gen from whatever country, we have these quirky experiences where it's like there's a band or a food that we know, and we try to be like in this group with kids in third grade, and you're like, yeah, I just did this, I went to this wedding, I went to this song, whatever it is, and you'll get blank stares because that's not something that they experience. And so um, I was excited to frame this in a way that was like quirky and awkward and fun, with an empowering message that that little girl who really was so confident in herself of knowing that they would know who Young Sensation, Joven Sensacion was, that little girl still lives in me, and I show up to spaces with that same audacity about myself, about my worth, and what I can do with my life. And so, yeah,
That is
just
so
hope.
powerful, girl. That is so powerful. I was like, I deserve
Yeah.
like a standing ovation. That's amazing. Yes, and that's exactly what you did when I was reading it because I was like, whoa. And I do believe in when writers write, uh, and they write powerful stories like that, there's a transmission that happens. There's this, and that passion that you just shared in the last 2 minutes, and like, and I still that little girl, like that was transferred to me as I read the story, and I was like, whoa, like this is big, and the story is big, but you're big, like inside of you is so big that you're taking the time to have this conversation with me. You're like out there, you're shining, and you're like, hey, I'm here, and there was no reason why at any moment in time, you know, you should have felt like, oh, they don't know this. Like you have this pride of being the Peru, like you have all this pride of cultura, and all of a sudden you're just shut down because the other person or people or kids, they don't understand that. And it's like, you had to fight to continue to have that light in you. You had to fight to be proud of who you were, not just as a little girl, but growing up in all phases of your life, right? And then here you are, a grown woman, and we're still having to fight as Latinas to shine and to be like, I'm still that little girl. I'm still a proud, in my case, like I said, I'm still a proud Mexicana, but I'm also like a proud Americana, and it's like having to navigate those two worlds. And so it's beautiful. It's a beautiful process. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand it. So the more conversations that we have, and the more you share, the more I share, and the more all of us in the community share, the more rich America becomes, United States, because like just
Yeah.
said, right, the United States becomes, and there's more opportunity for people who are not aware of this, of whatever we want to call it, I guess this way of being, how this is okay. We can be both. And one of the things that I learned, when I got some coaching, by Denise Soler, is she says, it's okay. You can be both. You can be 100% Mexicana and 100% Americana. It was the first time I had ever heard that. And it was through a coach. So again, going back to the coaching, you're about to launch this huge coaching career, and at the end of the year, is like, those are the valuable gems that you get from hiring a coach and working with a coach. And I can just imagine how rich those conversations will be with you and your clients because of all of your experience. that
Yeah,
we can all get
for
out of
sure.
it. So again, thank you
Thank you.
for being part of this anthology. I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing such a rich conversation today, and for sharing a piece of you and who you are in this book, along with some other amazing writers as well. And also supporting, I want to thank you too, because you, when I post things on social media and stuff, you're always supporting and commenting. And you know, I know that takes time and energy, so I do appreciate all your support and in supporting the community as well. So thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I hope that we have a conversation sooner rather than later, okay?
Yes, sounds good. Thank you.